The most powerful swords in history are embodied in this sword, the sword that has been the subject of many legends and sayings. Who owns this sword and how was it made? What metal was used? Did it really belong to the people of Ad? Follow with us the story of one of the strangest swords in history, the Sword of Samsamah.
Amar ibn Ma'd lived most of his life in the pre-Islamic era, a life full of frivolity and mischief. In his youth, he was a playful and frivolous person, devoted to amusement and drinking, abandoning the battlefields. His father, Ma'd even gave him the nickname Ma'iq Bani Zubayd, meaning the fool who is no good. But within the heart of this young man lay a great secret that no one has yet understood. His secrets to asserting himself were not arbitrary. So, how did he do it? Wait until we reach a decisive battle in this hero's history. Amr knew that the Khatam tribe would launch a raid on his people. So, he asked his sister to feed him before the battle. This, if anything, indicates that he knew he would need great strength and immense energy. So why? Maybe he would fight alone in that battle. Or it was a matter of life and death for him. He wanted to prove to them that he was a hero and not as they say. Suddenly, his sister told their father what Amr had asked for.
The father said in astonishment and mockery of what he heard, "This foolish boy says that." But she prepared for him what he asked for, a trough of corn and a four-legged goat. Amr ate all of that and prepared for battle. That morning, when the battle began, Amr did not move to fight. He pretended to be asleep and let the two sides fight, watching the battle from afar. When he raised his head, he saw his father's standard still fighting. He felt reassured and put his head back. Suddenly, a few moments later, he raised his head again and found that his father's standard had fallen. He jumped from his seat and hurried to the battlefield. What did he do at that time? Remember when we told you about the title of Al-Ma'ik? Here is Amr ibn Ma'd, proving to everyone the opposite, that he is an unrivaled knight on the battlefield. He performed a heroic act that later earned him the title of the Knight of Zabit. After seeing his father's banner defeated, he rushed towards the battle. On the way, he met his defeated father and said to him sarcastically, "Get off your horse! Today is a day of injustice." His father said angrily, "Here you are in Ma'ik," meaning enough. But the people said, "Leave him, man. If he is killed, you will be responsible for his expenses, and if he is victorious, he is yours." So his father threw his weapon to him. Amr mounted the horse and rushed towards the enemy. He charged them again and again until Khatam were defeated and routed in a terrible defeat. From that day on, Amr was no longer Ma'ik, but was known by a new title, the Knight of Al-Zubayd. The dust was removed from the soul of that hero, which carried a legendary seed that no one could have imagined. Among the strange stories told about him is that he once went out on a raid and found a huge knight sitting holding his sword, looking like a fierce fighter. Amr said to him, "Be careful, I have killed you." The man asked him sarcastically, "Who are you?" He replied, "I am Amr ibn Ma'd." As soon as the man heard this name, he gasped in terror. Then he fell dead on the spot. Whether this story is true or not, it was evidence of his fame and his exceptional bravery. But what is the story of the rare sword that Amr ibn Ma'd owned? Is it really a rare legend, and what is its story with the Arab kings who tried it? Follow it here. The king of India sent lavish gifts to the Muslim Caliph Harun al-Rashid, swords that claimed to cut rocks, savage dogs that killed lions, and gilded clothes that reflected the sunlight. But the Caliph, with the cunning of lions and the wisdom of wise men, ordered his soldiers to form a majestic line and wear iron armor that completely covered them so that only their eyes were visible. When the messengers entered the Caliph's hall, Harun al-Rashid welcomed them with a voice that shook the audience and asked them, "What have you brought?" They raised their lavish clothes with arrogance and said, "These are the most beautiful and finest clothes in our country." Harun al-Rashid laughed and mocked the quality of their cloth, so he ordered it to be cut up and used as covers and masks for the horses. The messengers' ribs broke with shame. Then they came forward, boasting about their Indian swords, and said, "Their swords cut iron and are unparalleled." The eyes of the Caliph of the Muslims lit up and he said defiantly, "Bring the sword that defeated legends." while the audience held their breath. The silence was broken by the sharp sound of a sword, like a hawk's sharp blade. Suddenly, a huge, long, wide, and heavy sword, unlike any Arab swords. With one strike, the legendary sword cut through the Indian swords as if they were bamboo sticks. Pieces of sword rained down on the ground while the messengers held their heads as if they would obey. They did not surrender and said, "These are our dogs that will tear apart swimmers." Cow. Harun al-Rashid ordered the release of a mighty lion, which terrified the crops and shook the palace. The three dogs pounced on it until the lion tore its limbs apart. Harun al-Rashid was shaken in amazement at these dogs and said in a trembling voice, "Ask whatever you want in exchange for these dogs." The messengers cried out, "We want the sword." The caliph exploded with anger and said, "The sword is not mine and is not for sale. Even if you knew who owns the sword, you would not have abandoned it." Then he turned his back and whispered in a voice reminiscent of the times of wars, "This is the sword of Samsama, the sword of the knight that does not bend, the sword of the noble companion Amar ibn Ma'd, with which he cut the throats of enemies before their blood had dried." The messengers left carrying gifts that were not worth an iota of the glory of that sword. The sword was not just an ordinary weapon, but a legend bearing the name of a man immortalized in history books. It is the sword of Samsama of the Muslim knight Amar ibn Ma'd, the knight whose sword became a part of the soul of the Arabs and Muslims. So what is the story of this sword, and why did it become famous in the dungeons of history? Was it really a legendary sword as Harun al-Rashid claimed? Follow along with us. It is reported that Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, spoke about this sword and said, "Who is the best of the Arabs?" They said, "Hatim al-Ta'i." He asked, "Who is its knight?" They said, "Amr ibn Ma'd." He asked, "Who is its poet?" They said, "Imru al-Qais." He asked, "Which of their swords is the sharpest?" They said, "Al-Samsamah." He said, "This is enough pride for Yemen." It is said that the name of the sword was Al-Samsamah, meaning the sword that does not bend. Its meaning is mentioned in Arabic dictionaries as a sharp sword that does not bend. Al-Jawhari said in his book, Al-Sihah, Al-Samsam or Al-Samsamah, it is a sharp sword that does not bend. Al-Layth said in his book, Al-Samsamah is the name for a cutting sword. Al-Zamakhshari also mentioned it. It is also said that it is a rare sword made of a unique metal extracted from Mount Nukum in Yemen, and it may have been buried near the Kaaba, which gave it an aura of sanctity. It was very large compared to Arab swords. The reason for this was its length, which reached 7 ashbars, approximately 1.5 meters. Its weight was 6 pounds, approximately 3 kilograms, and its width was 1 ashbar, approximately 20 centimeters. It had an edge on one side, while the other side was edgeless, so it did not cut. Al-Tabari mentioned in his book that it was a plate connected at the bottom by 3 nails that joined the plate and the joint. Al-Tabari's statement accurately described the sword as the blade or plate was attached to the hilt by 3 metal nails to ensure strength and durability. This indicates an advanced technical method in sword making at that time, as some swords were made from a single piece, while others were composed of different parts held together with nails or metal joints, such as the Samsama sword. In fact, after deconstructing the specifications of the sword, we conclude that the Samsama sword was a heavy, long, and wide sword designed to be a very powerful weapon in the hand of the knight who carried it. The knight must have superhuman strength to be able to benefit from it. The best example of such a knight is our hero, Amr ibn Ma'd. Once, a king asked him for his sword, so he gave it to him. However, the king could not use the sword properly, so he swept it at a sheep, but it did not cut anything. What a poor sword! He returned it to Amr and said, "The sword did not cut anything. I gave you the sword, but not the forearm. Then he took an iron pole, wrapped his cloak around it, and struck a camel with it, cutting off both the pole and the neck. Oh my God. Amr ibn Ma'd acquired it after it was gifted to him by the king of kings of the Himyarites, Al-Qima ibn Dhikayfan. It is one of the last swords made with a rare manufacturing style known as the Yarashiyya style, which was famous in the Himyarite, a kingdom in Yemen, and dates back to a very ancient time. Amr boasted, "This rare piece and the sword of Ibn Dhikayfan are with me." The young man chose it from the era of Ad. In this verse, Amr ibn Ma'd proudly expresses his possession of a weapon with a noble and rare lineage dating back to a very ancient time, perhaps a remnant of the people of Ad. Thus, the Samsama passed through the hands of heroes, knights and kings, each proud of owning this unique, deadly sword. Despite the passage of time, the name of the Samsama remained engraved in history books, not only because it was a rare sword, but also because it was in the hands of those who knew how to use it. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you.